Hi, this is Jay from ShopWorks, and in this video I'm going to show you a technique that you can use for grabbing numbers that you can use for 1099 reporting. Now, before watching this video, you need to understand the basics of how the OnSite 7 system works, and then also you need to understand how to set up vendors in the system. Now, before I show you this technique, a couple comments. Number one, you need to know that OnSite is capable of report generation only. And these aren't specific for 1099 reporting. You're going to be the one that's going to be responsible taking the data from these reports and filling out the appropriate forms for the IRS. So just so you know, OnSite does not provide the forms or fill out the 1099 forms. All right, let's get into it. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Step one is what we're going to do is the first thing is we need to classify our vendors as being a 1099 vendor or not. Now, OnSite does not have a specific field for 1099 vendors. However, that's not a problem because if we look at a vendor in the system, let's bring up a vendor, we have up to 10 custom fields that we can use for our vendors. So step one of this process is going to be to use one of these fields as our to key off of for our 1099. So where I'm going to do that, I'm going to use my custom one field. Now you can use any of these fields you want because we're just going to use it for doing a search. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Utilities and I'm going to go to System Settings and Custom Fields, and in there you'll see Vendor Custom Field. So I'm going to take the custom field number 1 and I'm going to make that 1099. Again, you could use any of these fields that you want. And I'm going to give it a value list. So my value list is going to be, I'm going to get rid of the existing value list. And I'm going to make a new value list called yes or no. Or if I wanted to, I could just do yes. Or if I wanted to, I could just put in here 1099. So however you want to do it. So I'm going to leave it as yes. So 1099 yes. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go into each vendor that's a 1099 vendor, and you can see immediately when I went back to vendors, my custom field changed to 1099. And so I'm going to make them yes. So Abacano is a 1099 vendor, ABC Supply is a 1099 vendor. So you're going to have to go in and classify your vendors as being 1099 vendors. So I'm just going to select a couple here for the illustration for the purposes of what we're doing here. Okay, now that I've got all those vendors that are 1099 vendors, what I can do, I'm going to go back out to my main menu, and now I'm going to do a search. So I'm going to click on Find, and I'm going to go under Custom Fields, 1099, yes. And that's going to bring up all my 1099 vendors for me. Now I'm going to show you a trick to make this easier for yourself in the future. I'm going to click on Find, and under 1099 yes, I'm going to add this as a stored find. That way I don't have to go through all this every time. So I'm going to add as a stored find. I'm going to put in here 1099 vendors. I'm not going to share this with other people. Now this is a stored find, so I'm going to show it to you here in a second. So I'm just going to cancel or do your find, whatever. Go back to my home menu. Because I saved that as a stored find, notice that now whenever I come to the vendors menu, I have in my stored find list 1099 vendors. So that's very convenient because instead of having to click on the Find button, now I just click on my little button there and it brings up all my 1099 vendors. So that's basically all I have to do on the setup side. Now when I'm ready to run my report, what I'm going to do, let's just go back to our main menu. So to run a report, I'm going to click on my 1099 vendors, bring them all up. Here's all my 1099 vendors, and I'm going to click on the annual spent. Annual spent is a report that will show me how much I've spent with each vendor over the previous year or different years. So I'm going to start in 2012 because I'm doing the report for 2012 and I want to do a total of 1 year of calculations. Now this report can be used for a lot of different things. It's not only for 1099 type stuff, but you know, this is one of the places where it can be useful. So I'm going to do 1 year, 2012. Let's go ahead and calculate. Now it is a calculated report. This was very fast because I don't have much data in here. But you know, your report, depending on how many vendors you have, et cetera, could take longer. So I calculate the report. It gives me the numbers that I spent with each vendor, and each one of these is a 1099 vendor. We've already established that. And so now I can go to Print Reports, and I can print this out, okay? Or I can export the information to Excel. So this annual spent, I can print it out, or I can export it to Excel, and then from there, then you'd have to actually go in and generate your 1099 forms, however you're doing that. Our system does not do the actual form part of it. But this is where you can grab the data from the OnSite 7 system. And that concludes this video on how to generate reports for 1099 reporting.